They tried to break her spirit, but they underestimated her father's resolve. Janiya Cole stood at the edge of the Crestwood High gymnasium, her heart pounding like a drum. The crowd's cheers echoed around her, but she felt a quiet storm inside. Today wasn't just any game day. It was her first official appearance as the school's first black cheerleader. At 16, Janiya had fought hard to earn this spot, and now all eyes were on her. She adjusted her navy blue and gold uniform, the colors of Crestwood High, and took a deep breath. Around her, the other cheerleaders smiled and waved, but some of the football players on the sidelines shot sideways glances. Not all of them were pleased with her presence. Janiya had heard the whispers in the hallways, the snide remarks after practice, and the mocking chants that sometimes floated from the stands. But she was determined to prove she belonged. "Hey, Cole," a voice sneered from across the field. It was Tyler, the senior linebacker, known for his sharp tongue and stubborn pride. "You sure you're cut out for this? Cheerleading's not really your thing." Janiya's jaw tightened, but she kept her smile steady. "I'm here to cheer for the team, just like everyone else." Tyler laughed, loud enough for a few others to join in. "Yeah, right. Just don't mess up the image, all right?" The insult wasn't just about cheerleading. It was about fitting into a mold they'd grown comfortable with. Janiya felt the sting, but she refused to show it. Instead, she focused on the game, on the rhythm of the cheers, on the energy she wanted to bring. After the game, the hallways buzzed with students swapping stories about the win. But Janiya noticed the cold shoulders from some teammates and the quiet avoidance from others. It was clear that while some were happy to have her around, others weren't ready to accept change. That evening, at dinner in their modest home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Janiya's father, Commander Janiya Cole, listened carefully as she recounted the day's events. Elijah was a Navy SEAL, a man who carried calm and strength like a shield. He had always taught Janiya to stand tall, to face challenges head-on, but also to choose her battles wisely. "You did good today," he said, his voice steady. "People will try to knock you down when you're breaking new ground. But remember, you're not just fighting for yourself, you're opening doors for others." Janiya nodded, but the weight of the day pressed on her. She wanted to be strong, but the loneliness was real. But this was only the beginning of the storm she was about to face. The next few weeks turned into a gauntlet of microaggressions and outright hostility. During practices, football players would accidentally knock into Janiya, sending her tumbling. The cheers she suggested were dismissed, her ideas ridiculed. Tyler and his crew made sure she knew she was an outsider, that she didn't belong. One afternoon, after a particularly brutal practice, Janiya found her cheerleading uniform defaced with crude remarks and racial slurs. It was the last straw. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Instead, she balled up the uniform and stormed off to the locker room. Later that evening, Elijah found Janiya sitting on her bed, staring blankly at the wall. He sat beside her, his presence a silent reassurance. "They messed up my uniform," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elijah didn't say anything, but his eyes hardened. He knew this wasn't just about a uniform. It was about disrespect, about hate. He had faced his share of prejudice in his own life, and he had always taught Janiya to rise above it. But this felt different. This was targeted, personal. "What are you going to do?" he asked gently. Janiya hesitated. "I don't know. I want to quit. It's not worth it." Elijah wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Quitting is easy, Janiya, but you're stronger than that. You have a right to be there just like anyone else. Don't let them drive you away." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes you have to show people that you won't back down, not with anger, but with strength, with dignity." The next day, Janiya wore her defaced uniform to school, not as a sign of defeat, but as a statement. She walked through the halls with her head held high, ignoring the stares and whispers. When she reached the football field for practice, she laid the uniform out on the bleachers for everyone to see. Tyler and his friends snickered, but their laughter seemed hollow. Janiya had taken their weapon and turned it against them. She had shown them that their hate wouldn't break her, but Elijah knew that showing strength was only the first part of the battle. Days passed, and the tension in Crestwood High didn't ease. If anything, it grew heavier, like a storm cloud hanging over the school. Janiya's courage inspired some students, but it also made the senior football players more determined to push back. One Friday evening, during a home game in Tulsa's Memorial Stadium, the atmosphere was electric. The stands were packed, the band played loud, and the cheerleaders were in full swing. Janiya stood at the front, leading the crowd with energy and passion. But behind her, she could feel the cold eyes of Tyler and his friends. During halftime, a prank was planned, one that crossed every line. As Janiya and the squad prepared for their routine, a bucket of foul-smelling liquid was dumped over her head. The crowd gasped, some laughed. Janiya froze, dripping and humiliated in front of hundreds. Her teammates rushed to her side, but the damage was done. She wanted to disappear. Back in the locker room, Janiya's hands trembled as she wiped the mess away. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "This isn't just bullying anymore. It's hate." Elijah was waiting for her when she got home. He didn't need to ask what happened. The smell told the story. "Knew it would get worse," he said quietly. "But you're not alone." Janiya looked up, eyes full of pain. "I don't know if I can keep doing this." Elijah took a deep breath. "I've trained for situations like this. Not with force, but with control. We're going to make sure the school understands what's happening. You deserve respect, not this." That night, Elijah drafted a letter to the school board requesting a meeting. He wanted to speak, not as a Navy SEAL, but as a father who refused to let his daughter be broken. But standing up to an entire community would take more than words. The Crestwood High School board meeting took place the following Wednesday evening in the school's auditorium in Midtown Tulsa. The room was packed. Students, parents, teachers, everyone wanted to know what Commander Cole had to say. Janiya sat beside her father, her heart pounding. Elijah approached the podium, his presence commanding. He began by thanking the board for their time, but his tone quickly turned serious. "My daughter, Janiya Cole, is the first black cheerleader in the history of Crestwood High," he stated, his voice calm but firm. "She earned that spot through hard work and dedication, but since joining the squad, she has faced relentless harassment and discrimination." He paused, making eye contact with each member of the board. "This isn't just about a few pranks. This is about a culture of intolerance that has been allowed to fester within this school." Elijah described the incidents, the insults, the mocking chants, the defaced uniform, and the bucket of foul liquid poured over Janiya's head during the halftime show. The room was silent. "I'm not here to demand punishment," he continued. "I'm here to ask you to take responsibility, to acknowledge that this behavior is unacceptable, to create an environment where every student feels safe and respected." He looked at Janiya, his eyes filled with pride. "My daughter has shown incredible strength in the face of adversity, but she shouldn't have to fight this battle alone. It's up to all of us to stand with her." The room erupted in applause. Some students shouted their support, but Tyler and his friends remained silent, their faces stony. After the meeting, the local news interviewed Elijah and Janiya. Their story spread like wildfire. Suddenly, Crestwood High was in the spotlight, and the community was forced to confront its own prejudices. But words needed to turn into action, and the battle was far from over. In the days following the school board meeting, Crestwood High felt different. Conversations that had once been whispered in hallways were now out in the open. Teachers held meetings about respect and inclusion. Students formed groups to support Janiya and others facing discrimination. Janiya noticed the change too. Some of her cheerleading teammates, who had been quiet before, started standing up for her. They practiced together, laughed together, and slowly the walls of isolation began to crumble. One afternoon after practice, Sarah, a sophomore cheerleader, approached Janiya with a hesitant smile. "Hey Janiya, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner. You're amazing." Janiya smiled back, feeling warmth she hadn't felt in weeks. "Thanks, Sarah. That means a lot." Even Tyler seemed different. He didn't apologize, but his sneers were less frequent. One day, after football practice, he caught Janiya alone by the bleachers. "Look," he said, avoiding eye contact. "Maybe I was wrong. You do belong here." It wasn't a full truce, but it was a start. At home, Elijah watched his daughter grow stronger. "You're changing things, Janiya. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you." Janiya nodded. "It's hard, but I'm ready to keep fighting." But true change takes time, and the road ahead still held challenges. Months passed, and the atmosphere at Crestwood High continued to evolve. The school had implemented new policies against harassment, and the administration was more proactive. Janiya's courage had inspired others to speak up, and the student body was slowly learning to embrace diversity. One chilly afternoon in Tulsa's river parks, Janiya met with some of her cheerleading teammates. They were planning a community event to celebrate unity and school spirit. The energy was infectious. "Janiya, you've changed everything here," said Mia, one of the senior cheerleaders. "We're lucky to have you." Janiya smiled, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known before. But the real test came during the final football game of the season. The stadium was packed, the crowd buzzing with excitement. Janiya led the cheer squad with confidence, her voice ringing clear. During halftime, Tyler approached her. This time, there was no sneer, no mocking tone. "You did good out there," he said quietly. Janiya looked up, surprised but grateful. "Thanks, Tyler." The two shared a brief nod, an unspoken acknowledgement of respect. Elijah watched from the stands, pride swelling in his chest. His daughter had faced fear, rejection, and hate, and had come out stronger. But the greatest lesson was yet to be learned. The school year was coming to a close, and the air was thick with anticipation and hope. Janiya stood on the field one last time, her cheerleading uniform crisp and clean, her smile genuine. The crowd cheered louder than ever, not just for the game, but for what she represented, a symbol of courage, change, and resilience. After the final whistle, the team gathered around Janiya. Tyler stepped forward, this time with no trace of hostility. "You showed us what it means to be brave," he said, "not just on the field, but off it. You taught us all something important." Janiya looked around at her teammates, friends who had become family. She thought about the long road she had traveled, the pain, the isolation, the moments she wanted to give up. But she had kept going, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever felt out of place. Later that evening, at home in Tulsa, Elijah and Janiya sat together on the porch. The sky was painted with the soft colors of sunset. "Dad," Janiya said softly, "I learned something this year. It's not about fitting in. It's about standing out for what's right." Elijah smiled, his eyes reflecting pride and love. "That's a lesson worth sharing." And so, Janiya's story became more than just a tale of hardship. It became a call to action, to stand up against intolerance, to support those who are different, and to believe in the power of courage and family. If there's one thing to take away from Janiya's journey, it's this. Change doesn't come easy, but it always starts with one brave step. What will your next step be? Thank you for following Janiya's story. If you found this inspiring, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.